The personalities that matter with Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. Keith's special guest this week made a history when he was elected as the first ethnic minority leader of Metropolitan Borough of Sandwell, who controls the budget of £400 million and looks after the population of the third of the million people. Raj Singh is the leading member of the Sikh community in the United Kingdom, who has had a meteoric rise to power, having recently been elected as Sandwell Council's youngest ever leader in May this year. He was born in Amritsar in Punjab before moving to England, where he did his masters at Birmingham University. In the UK, Raj had established his own successful retail business before being elected to Sandwell Council at the heart of the West Midlands. He joins Keith this morning from Sandwell on Talking Points.
Good morning, Councillor Raj Singh.
Good morning, Keith.
Now, Raj, when you were born in Amritsar in the Punjab, you grew up there. What was life like there in Amritsar?
Life was totally different from as compared to here. I was born in a family with agricultural background. My dad was an officer in police, but my family background was more about agriculture. And I've lived in a village in my first 10 years, and then we moved to the city, Amritsar, and it was totally different sort of culture and the lifestyle. It's incomparable, to be honest. But I enjoyed my childhood. I've really learned a lot living in village and city and then moving here.
Now, the decision to move from India to England, was that one that you made at a certain age, or was this a decision made by your parents to decide to come here?
I was studying for my bachelor's degree in Punjab University. That's when I decided that I want to move abroad for my further studies. So it was my decision.
Now, you read economics at the Punjab University. You then did a master's in management and international business from Birmingham City University. It's quite clear from that fact that you were planning a career in business. Was that the case? Was business very much in your DNA? Were your parents from a business background? Is that what you wanted to do here as a career?
No, to be honest, I never thought that I'll be going into business when I was studying for economics or my management studies. I always wanted to do something related to sort of economics. But when I was studying for my management, that's when I thought about going into academics. So after completing my master's degree, I even enrolled myself for a PhD in human resource management. But then, I had some experience working for one of the retail supermarkets. That's when I came up with this idea that, I could actually start my own business. So that's how I entered into business, really.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Raj Singh, the leader of Sandwell Council and a glass ceiling breaker for the ethnic minority community. Join us after the break. When we come back, we'll be talking about his life in business before we move on to his life in politics. Join us after the break.
Keith Vaz on Talking Points. Leica.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Councillor Raj Singh, the leader of Sandwell Metropolitan Borough Council. Raj, before you went into politics, you started a career in business and you established your own retail business. Was that as a result of working in the businesses that you described in part one, or was it something that just came your way?
No, I think when you're working in a business environment and you have that entrepreneurial mindset, yes, you do want to, experiment with your own business. And having that experience and the theoretical knowledge about running a business gave me a bit of confidence that, this is something I want to do. So I, along with my brother, we started this business and it went well and we just, enhanced it. That's how I became a businessman, to be honest.
And I suppose part of doing your own business is that you learn the important mantra that the customer is king, something I'm sure you've used in your political life after that. But is it difficult working with relatives, with the family? Because obviously a lot of the members of our community do go into family businesses. Is it strange, or did you all manage to cope? Are you all still speaking to him after all these years?
No, we are still together in the same business, in a very good relationship, and I think it's about that professionalism. So when you are into family business, you have to be professional in terms of how you operate your business. So you need to separate your personal relationships when it comes to business, and that's exactly what we both agreed, and that's the only reason why it has worked.
And then you made that decision, you got the political bug, and you decided to run for Sandwell Council. Looking back, because it's not that long ago, what made you decide to stand for the council? Because as a councillor, especially if you've got other work to do, you've got another job, it's quite tough, isn't it? The demands of local people. What made you run in the first place?
I strongly believe that, we shouldn't be complaining about issues around us. I'm a doer. So if I'm not happy with something, I don't want to stand aside and complain about, this is not right, that's not right. I believe in, become a part of the system and trying to change it. If you think that there is something that needs fixing, go out, be a part of that, and then try and fix it. So that's what motivated me to come into politics. I thought that, there's a lot I can contribute by becoming a councillor, and that's why I decided to go for it.
Because the demands of local people can be quite heavy, especially for ethnic minority representatives. Do you get people coming to your house, because they must all know where you live now, late at night? Do you get calls at very odd hours? It's not the traditional 9 to 5, is it, anymore, politics? Politics is very much, especially with social media, a 24/7 job. How did you cope with that, and how did your family cope with that?
Yes, absolutely. It's not a 9 to 5 job, and it's 7 days, and you get a call early in the morning about something that's gone wrong, and you do get contacted late at night as well if something needs my intervention. Yes, I've got a young family. I've got 2 young kids. One is 11, one is 5. So it can be hard, but I've got a partner I can rely on. She's my wife, Anu. She's been very supportive. She's been very helpful throughout, my career as a councillor and now a leader. And I think if you've got a partner who understands the pressure of your work and who's there to support you, that makes your life easy. And that's the reason I'm still all right.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to one of our glass ceiling breakers, Raj Singh, the leader of the Metropolitan Borough of Sandwell. When we come back, we're going to be talking about his role as the leader of the council and the challenges that are facing leaders in local government in the 21st century. Join us after the break. Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I hope you enjoyed that break. I'm talking to Raj Singh, Councillor Raj Singh, the leader of the Metropolitan Borough of Sandwell. Raj, when you were on the council, obviously you observed the way in which the council was run. After a very, very short period of time, only 3 years, you decided to go for the leadership of the council. What's interesting is there are lots of ethnic minority councillors, but very few leaders. What made you decide to run for the top job?
Before becoming a leader, I was a cabinet member for employment and skills. And I took charge of that portfolio at a very critical time in the middle of the pandemic. And it was important at that time to respond rapidly in issuing government grants to businesses and other issues that small businesses were facing at that time. So I think that was the crucial time, and I did everything I could have done to support the local businesses, and that was really well received by the business community in Sandwell. And that was very much appreciated by other councillors and cabinet members as well. So when this opportunity came up for the leadership, my name was proposed by a number of councillors, and I personally have always campaigned for more representation from BME communities to the top leadership roles or other senior positions. So I wouldn't have wasted this opportunity. I grabbed it with both hands, and hence I got elected as a leader.
I mean, leadership is a very difficult role, isn't it? Especially in a situation where you've got so many councillors from your party. Out of the 72 councillors in Sandwell, 60 are Labour and 10 are Conservatives. And in some cases, managing the Labour group and managing colleagues is more difficult than running the council. The people skills that you need for that job, are they honed and developed as you do the job, or did you have them before? And how difficult is it to lead?
I mean, you're always learning, especially when you take up a new role. The challenges are new, but your experience from your past is always helpful. So as a business owner, I understand how important it is to keep your staff happy. That if you have a happy staff, you have happy customers ultimately. And that's the goal of any organization. And in regards to local authority, your residents are your end customers. So they are on the receiving end, and your council employees and your councillors, they are your team. So they are the one on the delivering side. So if you understand their requirements, if you understand the barriers they are facing to deliver what you expect them to do, I think that's quite helpful. And that's the approach I've had since becoming the leader. I've had an open door policy to all my councillors and officers. So I listen to them, their concerns and their issues, and I generally try my best to resolve those issues. And I think they understand, they appreciate that as well. So that's been my leadership style since. And I think that is the way you can keep people on your side. If you're a good listener, then people will tend to align with you, because that's the first thing. You're listening to them, and then you're trying to deliver.
One of the things about the leadership role, the leader of the council as opposed to the elected mayor, is that there is a feeling that more negotiation is necessary. Some metropolitan boroughs, if you look at, for example, Greater Manchester, or indeed in the West Midlands, the West Midlands Metro Mayor, Andy Street, they are able to have a direct mandate from the electorate, and therefore, in a sense, they can do more. Or do you feel that being the leader of a council as opposed to an elected mayor allows you to do more? What do you think of the two different systems of local government that have been created over the last few years?
I think the reason for establishing combined authority and the metropolitan mayor is to give more power to the regions. And it is that partnership that makes it stronger. So the combined authority is formed in the West Midlands, formed by 7 local authorities, and all those leaders representing those local authorities have leading role in terms of how we move forward. Yes, we got the elected mayor, but the mayor in itself does not control geographically any area in the West Midlands. So it's about that relationship he has to maintain, and that we got a very good relationship in terms of West Midlands Combined Authority, and it's about that lobbying and that about a united front when it comes to attracting investment and funding for the region. That's how I look at it.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Councillor Raj Singh, who is the leader of the Metropolitan Borough of Sandwell and one of our history makers, one of our glass ceiling breakers. We're going to come back and talk to him about the current challenges, including COVID, after the break. Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Councillor Raj Singh, who is the leader of the Metropolitan Borough of Sandwell, one of our glass ceiling breakers. Raj, when you got the leadership, when you look at a borough like Sandwell, 1/3 people, a budget of £400 million. I mean, that's an awful lot of power there. It's probably more power than a junior minister in a government. How do you set out your goals and ambitions? Do you have a set of things that you want to achieve over the next year or 3 years? How do you assess what you're going to do?
My goal was to make an impact on the lives of the residents in the first 100 days of my leadership. And doorstep issues like clean and green and safe agenda is on top of my priorities, as these issues affect our daily experience of living in Sandwell. So I made pledges to help Sandwell become a cleaner borough, and many of our plans are already put in action. But of course, we need the residents of Sandwell to help us with that. So communication is really important as well. So since my election, I've tried to communicate through different platforms. So we established residents panel, which is a two-way process. So we listen to the residents about what their concerns are, what their priorities are, and then we convey to the residents about what we're trying to deliver so that they can have a say as well.
Well, local government in the last decade or so has always faced challenges concerning cuts by central government. I think we all know that your budget has been cut because of the amount of money you get from Westminster and Whitehall. There's always been this suggestion that they were going to give more to the regions. Do you feel that you've had your fair share, or do you think that you're under pressure in terms of the money that you get from central government? And would you like to raise some of this money yourself?
I think, like any other local authority, we all faced austerity for the last decade, and some of the councils have really suffered in terms of delivering their frontline services, and some of the essential services have been cut down. But in Sandwell, we are very proud that we have maintained all our services like, libraries and weekly bin collection and many other services which may have suffered due to the austerity. And this comes to really good management in terms of our budget. But yes, we are really tight in terms of the funding that we need to deliver those services. And it's going to get more and more difficult moving forward to maintain those services with the limited amount of funding and the reduced funding that we're getting from the central government.
Now, one of the biggest challenges you faced has been the COVID pandemic and the role that has been given to local government during that pandemic. Health, of course, is not a local government responsibility. It belongs to central government. But a lot of the burden has fallen on local councils to deliver. How have you all coped, and what lessons do you think can be learned about what has happened to Britain and indeed to Sandwell over the last 18 months?
I cannot say how proud I am of our residents and community organizations and partners, as well as the employees of the council. During this very difficult time, I think that gave us an opportunity to understand the strength of our community organizations as well. And I'm proud that my staff, our employees, they've gone over and beyond to make sure that, we are reaching out to the most vulnerable people in our society. And we've done everything to support those vulnerable sectors of our communities. We have established, food delivery services within Sandwell, and we were working with schools to deliver laptops to those people who were suffering from the digital poverty. So I think we've done a lot to address those issues, but yes, it's been a very difficult 18 months which we've all gone through.
Councillor Raj Singh, leader of Sandwell Council, it has been a real pleasure talking to you. We're all very conscious of the huge achievement in becoming the leader, but also you've set out very clearly what your vision of what you'd like to do for your people is concerned. We always ask our special guests to choose a song that means something special to them and to dedicate it to people who have been special and are special to them. Which song would you like to choose, and who would you like to dedicate it to?
I would like to choose my wife's favorite song, which I would like to dedicate it to my wife, Hanu Bula. The song is from movie Farab, and the title is Oh Hum Safar.
Let's hear Councillor Raj Singh's song. Thank you so much for joining us, and the best of luck in what you are planning to do in the future for the people of Sandwell.
Thank you, Keith. It was a pleasure to be invited to your show, and I wish you best of luck.
कर जा